Hello, my friends. I don't know if I'm the only one who has that experience that I'm going to share with you now, but you can just see if you can relate to that because we are going through so many changes. And the biggest change probably is that we are deeply transforming inside as we are leaving the matrix energy. And you may know that it's very, very sticky if you're also on your journey to liberate yourself and really, get out of that stickiness. It's kind of a strange thing to me because there's been over the years, it just feels like there's more opening, more freedom, definitely just deeper in myself, just deeper me, without a lot of the stuff. And then there are times where there's just certain parts that either keep coming back as a stickiness or as something that wants to penetrate into my presence or my awareness. And it feels so strange. Why does it feel strange? Because I know that I'm not that. It's very, very obvious. I know when these things come, for the most part, it's just like, sorry, I'm not interested. And so I don't touch it, as I have talked about before. I don't touch the suggestion, but there might still be emotional remnants that are still not freed or liberated from that matrix touching us. And that's, of course, I don't just deny that or dismiss that. That's where I really go in as my presence, in my presence. It's almost like to just dissolve where it's still holding on to the matrix. It feels like these parts are not fully integrated in the wholeness that I am. So by me bringing wholeness to that, if we can use that term, by just being fully present with it without trying to change it, without fixing it, without getting rid of it, without having a story around it, without getting pulled in by it, without being attached to it. Those are the things that keep us stuck, but just into the rawness of the present experience. That's usually where shifts can take place and energy is being released. So that's a big part of our journey, I would say. But then there are these parts that are just so freaking sticky and they just come back and come back and come back. And if you're anything like me, it can definitely be frustrating and tedious. It's like, is this ever going to change? So I would say my little theory around it is, well, maybe I should first say, do you feel that you're do you get pulled in by the default? It's almost like it's a default mode where if I'm not consciously tuning in to the field, not consciously resting in my heart, not consciously connected with my divinity, it's like this is like, it's right there. And I will call it the default right now. It's as if there is a set mold or something here that we are all being born into, and that's where all these core beliefs reside. And if we're not conscious of them, they got us. We're just unconsciously living out these core beliefs, limited beliefs, painful beliefs, and we're not in touch with reality. So we just go about our business unconsciously. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. I have to work hard. I have to be busy all the time. And when we do that, when we believe those, then we kind of try and balance it off with other limited beliefs. Like if I don't feel I'm good enough, because that's what I was born into and we all were, then I will go out and try and be good enough. I'll try and go out and be successful and work hard. It's all part of the matrix, the whole darn thing. So this morning when I was meditating, I just felt like I I could just feel that default matrix that's just kind of, you know, covering me and wants to come inside and, you know, have a feast of all these emotions that these beliefs create. And I'm not interested. But it doesn't always mean they go away right away, or maybe even for a long time. And that's what's so frustrating. But so the question is, do you feel that um, you get sucked into the default mode of the matrix? I don't know if you know what the default mode is, and I don't know if I know what it is, but I know that there is something that is always the same and it's sticky and it's uncomfortable and it's not true, and I'm not interested anymore. That in itself is very empowering. It feels like, I'm coming back to myself instead of being pulled out all the time, but it still keeps coming. So I want to just put it out there, maybe this is because most people are still identified with the matrix and everything that comes with that. And therefore, they are feeding the matrix, which gives it more energy to tempt us all more to believe it. So we create emotions that we feed back to it. And that's the story. So, since most people are still very identified with the matrix, I don't know how many people are actually disidentifying with the matrix because they're aware what it is and we all doing our dance around it, to just kind of slip out of it. So, I don't know how many people are fully aware of that, but I know that the majority is not aware, and that's why they are fully at its mercy all the way through. And because they feed it and it stays there. And maybe because so many are feeding it, that's why we keep feeling um, how the feeding of the matrix has an impact on us too, even though we're doing the opposite. If one person gets fully out of the matrix, I do believe that shines a much bigger light. So even though we may not be fully out of it, we are actually maybe the counter, the antidote to it by shining our light, not by doing anything, but by being it. And that does help lift it for others. But at the same time, there's still more than the half, more than 51% who are identified with the matrix. And I can't say that I know that because I don't. I'm just assuming something right now. Just because it helps me understand why this sticky stuff is still here when I'm fully like letting go of it. And you may recognize that in yourself. So we should not give up. If this can be a little encouragement for all of us, it is not as strong as it used to be, although it might feel like it is, or maybe even stronger, because we now have a space to recognize it and to not engage with it and to be present with the feelings that keep feeding it. So when we're present with the feelings, then they start dissolving. And that means less food for the matrix. So we are in that turnaround point already. It is happening, but it may be slower than we would like it to be. But every time one of us does this work, we are taking away the food that we used to feed the matrix with. And by staying here and then by not feeding it there, we stay here and then we actually start raising the frequencies just by being ourselves and not giving that energy to the matrix. But because there still is such a big part of the population that are feeling it, that means that the whole thing is not just going to collapse overnight. Or maybe because most people are not doing their inner work by disengaging from it, there is still, it still keeps going, right, on its own, basically. So recognizing when we're entering into the default of the matrix, that's like the Dharma bell, right? It's like, oh, and not give in to like, oh my God, I thought I already dealt with that. And I do it too. It's not easy, right? But this is more as an encouragement for us all to keep going, stay inspired, to be more of the light. The light does help dissolve the identity, the identification in ourselves and in the whole world. It does make a difference, but it's not moving as fast as most of us would like it to. So I hope that makes sense what I'm sharing. It's definitely helping me to stay on track and realizing that the work that I do that helps soften the darkness. It helps, I bring light to the darkness. That means that everybody who's still identified with the matrix is going to have more light available to see through the matrix. And every time somebody in the matrix starts seeing through the matrix, they take away their energy from the matrix. And that's why it gets less powerful. So everything we do as light workers, or whatever you call yourself, when you're here, a meditator, a teacher, a shaman, whatever you call yourself, we are here to bring in the higher frequencies or the light. Every time we do, it does help the people who are still identified with the matrix, who are in default mode. They don't have the consciousness or the light to see it for what it is. But by us doing the work, they also receive some of that light, and that might just open up their eyes a little bit so they can go like, what is this? Why am I doing this? Why am I believing this thought? Why do I keep working 80 hours a week when I really don't want to? So there's more awareness for those people. And then then they start bringing their light to the matrix, and that means the matrix is going to starve. Take it for what it is, my friends. I don't know if this is the truth, but I think it's helpful to really do the work. And that's what it all comes down to, that we do our inner, deeper work and come back into the full alignment and the full integration of who we truly are. And that will raise the frequencies for everybody else, even though we may never see it or know it or recognize it. And maybe I want to just add this to it, since this is the day after the inauguration of the new president. What I notice is that the people who are, there's maybe half of the population is like totally excited. It's going to be new, it's going to be amazing. And the other half is like totally despair, scared, whatever. There is one common denominator. Do you know what it is? Both sides put their power outside of themselves. This one is like, oh, it's going to be amazing, and they feel empowered. because they point something outside of themselves. And this side, who's miserable, they put all their power outside of themselves because now it's going to impact them in a negative way. And that is what we're talking about, guys. This is the result of moving into higher frequencies, moving into the new paradigm. We cannot bring that with us, that we put our power outside of ourselves. It can never work. It has never worked. It becomes this power play. There's victims, there's rescuers, there are perpetrators. You may recognize that triangle. I may actually talk about that next time, because that's what we live in. And if we feel empowered by somebody outside of ourselves, we are not in our own power. And if we feel disempowered by somebody else outside, we are not in our power. And that's what we need to start raising out from, so that we actually can fully surrender into the divine and make that the only place of true power where real transformation can come from. I guess I just wanted to add that onto it, since it is the day after, and there's a lot of very, very happy people, and there's a lot of very, very unhappy people. And, we don't need to be one of the other. We just stay here. We just observe the circus out there, and then we just do the work. Because the circus out there, of course, they're all fully identified in the matrix. And so the more we do our work by being the light, they will eventually also see that, you can't put your power outside of yourself. You can certainly respect somebody and, support somebody and be happy that somebody's doing good things out there. Absolutely. But hopefully it's going to come from the light from within, because then it's more permanent, then it's more wholesome, and it's more integrated. I think I'll pause here for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.